Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me. This is Ian Blackburn with Zoom into Wine. It's Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Every week we get together with a great group of people to talk about fine wine. And tonight we're talking Zinfandel. And if you know me at all, you know my affinity for the grape variety. And I couldn't have a better first guest than to welcome my friend Clay Mauritson to joining me. Hi, Clay. How are you, buddy? Let me unmute you. I got you right there, Clay.
I'm great. How you doing, buddy?
Good. You're in Colorado right now, out doing some sales appointments?
I am. Yes, sir. We are in Vail at the moment. I'd show you my view, but it'd probably make you all sick to your stomach because it's gorgeous.
Well, very good. Very good. Well, good. I hope you have a great success in Vail, Colorado. Tonight, we're tasting some Juggernauts and Zinfandel, but I wanted to, give people a little bit of background. Clay and I have been friends for a very long time. We worked in the 1990s together at a small family-owned winery called Kenwood, and Clay's family were grape growers. And Clay started his own brand in the late 1990s, and then gave birth to my brand, Beekeeper, in 2009. And I've continued to watch Clay climb as a human being, as a winemaker, as a family man. And he's done so many amazing things, and just such a blessing for me to know Clay and to love Clay and to enjoy all that we've done together. So when I was going to do a thing on Zinfandel, I had to give Clay a call, and he agreed to be my first guest tonight. So thanks for joining me tonight, buddy.
It's an honor to be here, except you're making me sound really old.
Yeah, well, sad fact. we're starting to get there.
1990s. That's just how is that even possible? That's when we started working together. That's amazing.
I can't believe I've been doing Learn About Wines for 31 years. So it's just people are sending their children, and just the good news is some of the people that I lost for about 18 years, their kids are finally through the pipeline, and now they're coming back around, and that's the good news for the second part of our business. So. Clay, let me ask you a little bit about why Zinfandel is important to you.
Well, I think it is quintessential California. I think the myth has been debunked. It is not the California grape. We now know the origins of Zinfandel were in Croatia, but it is really the only varietal that California can lay claim to that no other major wine producing region claims. And so, it is a part of our heritage. I think it's, tells the story of America, right? It is a scrappy grape. It's an underdog. It is challenging at times, but so rewarding. It's a varietal that I just absolutely love. And I know that I can be very masochistic at times, but I'm an insanely competitive person. And that's what I love about Zin is, it's not to take anything away from Pinot Noir or Cabernet. But man, when you get Zinfandel right, when it has varietal correctness, it has structure, it has balance, that's an infinitely greater accomplishment than doing that with any other varietal. So I think that's what I love about it the most.
Yeah, I understand where, there was a period of time where Cabernet was, taking all the attention, all the oxygen in the room. And I think that is changing as we speak. The world's changing, the wine audience is changing. But what I always loved about Zin is that it is so unique to California, and it is so unique to the part of California that it's grown in. It takes on such a unique, it translates the terroir that it's being grown in such a unique way. And I think it's a real beautiful expression. I never understood quite why we couldn't make Zinfandel even more successful, but I do admit that there are so many different iterations of Zinfandel, from white Zinfandel. Some people, you pour that red wine, they're like, "Oh, I didn't know there was a red Zinfandel." I mean, that happens, right, Clay? Am I making that up?
No, it happens. It still happens.
And and then you've got Zin producers that have made it in a serious way, and Zinfandel producers that have made it more in a dessert fashion. And so, so for some people, it's about what Zinfandel are they actually opening, and do they know what to expect? And I think those are really hard things as marketers, as winemakers, as wine business people, that we need to confront and admit that those are some of the challenges, some of the hurdles that this grape variety has. But tonight, Clay, we put together a really awesome lineup, and thank you again for being here. We're going to taste with the group. We're tasting your 23, which I heard is a pretty damn good vintage, Clay.
It is. So I'm drinking, just so you know, I'm drinking Rockpile, but that's because what I had with me. So the Dry Creek's in. You guys are slumming it down there. That's all right. 23. So keep in mind, I'm the first to acknowledge that wine is unbelievably subjective. That's one of the beauties of it. It's in the eye of the beholder. You like what you like. So when I talk about quality of vintages, I try to talk about objective measures of quality. And that may sound like an oxymoron, but in the winemaking world, we know that there are certain things that correlate very strongly to quality. And the first thing that we look at is pre-harvest chemistry. And what I mean by that is, when we pick the grapes, where is the balance between the sugar and acid? Are we having to pick at 25, 26, even higher bricks to get the desired flavor, at which point our acids are much lower? In 23, it was such a long, cool growing season. There was zero impetus to pick except for when the flavors were perfect. And so the chemistry was perfect because of that. We were picking at 24, 24.2 bricks, where our acids were 6.5, even higher in terms of grams per liter. And we know that that is one of the things that constitutes a great vintage. The second thing objectively that I can tell you about 23 is that it was one of the best years phenolically that we have ever seen. And phenolics are what give wine, first of all, their color, but probably more importantly, their structure. And a lot of people talk about tannin in wines, but anthocyanin is really kind of like the more important redheaded stepchild, and understanding the relationship between those two compounds is critical for understanding what makes a great wine. And when you think about wine that has beautiful weight on the palate, that has great structure, but it's not astringent, yet is still going to age gracefully, it's those two compounds in really ideal ratios that allow it to do that. And that's what I mean about objective measures of quality. We know identifiably that it was some of the best chemistry we've ever seen and some of the best phenolic composition we've ever seen. Now, in terms of flavor profile, this is where it gets a little bit more subjective. As I said, you like what you like. It was a cool growing season. So the 23 wines tend to have a lot more tertiary notes. There's minerality, there's herb, there's earth notes to them. They have high acid, and so they're brighter and fresher. Well, some people might like their Zins really jammy. Some people might like their Zins with lower acid. So there's no right or wrong there. But when we look at what constitutes a great vintage, 23 is the best we have ever seen. And I love the fact that we've got great acid. I love the wines have beautiful, what I would say, perfect ripeness, where you can still constitute those individual berry notes in the wine. There's nothing commingled or jammy about it, but there's beautiful berry fruit there.
Excellent. Let's get into our Zinfandel presentation. And here's a look at Clay's bottle. Clay, you've been around now, does it seem like 25 years?
Well, sadly, it's been longer than that if we're counting.
Yeah, that's pretty insane. And we're talking about Sonoma.
Yes, sir.
We're talking about Dry Creek. And what is the constitution of your Dry Creeks in these days? So where are you getting this fruit, and how much of it are you growing? growing in rock pile? Where's it coming from?
Yep. So we grow about 80% of the fruit that goes into that, meaning it's estate fruit. We are extremely proud of the 20% that we buy. So I don't mean to say that 80% is estate actually as a positive thing. We're lucky that we grow some exceptionals in, but sometimes I can buy better grapes than I can grow. And even though my family's been farming there for 160 years, for going on 7 generations, it's about having that perfect piece of dirt and that perfect person farming it. So we take a lot of pride in being able to work with families like the Bucagnanis and the Filonis that are some of the best growers in the valley. And because of our multi-generational family friendships, they give us the shirt off their back, let alone sell us 4 tons. So our Dry Creek Zin really is an incredible representation of everything about Dry Creek Valley. So we get fruit from the northernmost portion, which is rock pile. We get fruit from the southernmost portion, which is almost in Russian River Valley. And then we get fruit from the eastern bench and the western bench. And so we're really trying to express, what makes Dry Creek what it is. And, as you know, Ian, we do a series of single vineyard wines from our rock pile property, but our Mauritson wines are very appellation focused. And we want to give you a perfect expression of the Dry Creek Valley. And so we really intentionally source fruit from every aspect because each fruit source has a different flavor profile. Each side of the valley has different soil compositions, different sun exposures, and that yields different characteristics. And you said it earlier, Zinfandel is very malleable. It really showcases its unique terroir very readily, which sometimes can be a challenge.
This is a picture of the rock pile appellation looking down on Lake Sonoma. And Clay's family has been a big part of this part of the world. What percentage of rock pile do the Mauritsons control these days, Clay?
We control a little bit over half. I mean, we own 85 acres in rock pile. There's only about 200 acres in the entire appellation. And we farm around 120 out of the 200. So the pretty high likelihood if you're drinking a rock pile wine in some way, shape, or form, my family touched it. And it's so ingrained in our DNA. I mean, we have been farming that property right there in front of you for 7 generations and 158 years.
Here's Clay's tasting room and winemaking facility. How many of you guys have been there? Maybe some of you. Great place to go and visit. And if you are on this Zoom tonight, I'd love to help you make sure Clay knows you're coming. Get your name on the tasting list. Please let me know you're going to Sonoma, Healdsburg, Dry Creek, anywhere up there, and we'll get you an appointment with Clay's family. A little bit more about that 23. Are we talking about 100% Zinfandel here, Clay?
So we use quite a few old vine vineyards. Our oldest block that goes into this blend is 95 years old, and very typical of the old vine vineyards, they were all planted as field blends. And so we have 3 blocks that are old vine. They all have a little bit of Petit Syrah, a little bit of Carignan, a little bit of Alicante Boucher blended in as a field blend. We don't itemize those, meaning that when that fruit comes into the winery, we label it as 100% Zinfandel, but there is little bits of that as a field blend. We do blend anywhere from 4 to 7%, depending on the vintage, of Petit Syrah into the Dry Creek Zin. And the Petit Syrah always comes from rock pile. We love what Petit Syrah does in terms of its fruit expression. It tends to be very blue fruited, where our Dry Creek Zin tends to have more of that very traditional, red berry fruit. Petit Syrah also has incredible structure. And so it just helps add backbone to Zin, which is a very thin-skinned varietal, so it can be difficult to coax tannin out of.
93 points from the Spectator. Anybody reads the Wine Spectator, that's one of the highest scores Zinfandel ever got.
Yeah.
Wine Spectator.
Don't get me started on that. I've been on a rampage with every reviewer that reviews our wines about why have you never given Zinfandel a 100-point score?
Yeah.
If we're judging Zin on the character of its own varietal, there has to be a perfect expression of it. And I think it's a disservice to Zinfandel. There's been 100-point Chards, 100-point Cabs, 100-point Pinots, 100-point everythings. But Spectator, Robert Parker, and Wine Enthusiasts, the big 3, have never awarded a 100-point score to a Zinfandel. And I'm not saying that our wine deserves a 100-point score, I always say we have a perfect representation of place and time. But, Zinfandel has been looked at as the redheaded stepchild for so long. And when you taste this wine, God, I don't know how you get better than this. It has beautiful fruit. It's got spice. It's got complexity. It's got structure. Kind of celebrating America's 250th anniversary. We obviously don't have anything that's 250 years old, but we have quite a bit of wine that's 25 years old. And so we opened up a 2001 Dry Creek Zin in the tasting room on the 4th of July. And it was awesome. And to be able to show that to people, that Zinfandel can age gracefully when made with the integrity and structure that this wine is.
And it is so balanced, Clay. It's gorgeous, man. And I do love that the structure, the balance, the freshness that you talked about earlier, that all those vintage notes are there, and everything's in nice restraint. There's nothing pruny or overripe about it. It's just really gorgeous. And I wish everybody could experience this as their, kind of like benchmark of what Zinfandel is about.
Could be and should be. Do you remember when we were in Burgundy in 2000 and what Jacques Lardier said to me?
Well, he told you that you should, or he told me I should drink 69. Not 68.
You remember he said, I won't try and do the French accent because it's really bad, but a raisin tastes like a raisin tastes like a raisin. Do you remember that?
Yes. Okay.
And it was something obviously I've never forgotten and has really shaped our winemaking philosophy, because you brought up the point that so many Zins have this really monochromatic dried fruit profile. And it's part of the nature of the grape. It ripens unevenly as a byproduct of its unique bunch morphology, but it's also extremely thin-skinned. But the problem with that is as you start to achieve dehydration in the fruit, what Jacques was saying was that a raisin Cabernet and a raisin of Pinot Noir and a raisin of Zinfandel all start to taste the same because they just taste like raisins. And so we have searched out sites not only within our vineyards, but within other great producers, other great growers in Dry Creek Valley that give us the physiologic and phenolic ripeness we want and need, but not at that uber ripe profile. And so that's how we can retain that acid and that structure, is by maximizing, really phenolics in it and preserving that natural acidity.
Well, a great representation, a perfect way to start off tonight's showcase. I hope you have great success in Colorado. Thank you, Clay Morton.
Thank you, brother. Always an honor to be here. As Ian said, any of you want to come up to visit us in Dry Creek Valley, we would love to have you. I'll put my email address in the chat, or you can connect directly with Ian to come see us. I might hang out and listen for a while, Ian, if that's all right.
Hell yeah. Enjoy your Zin.
All right, buddy.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us. I hope everyone's in a better place. A little wine goes a long way. Feeling pretty good. Getting ready for my Dodgers to play another game here. And Ray Marie, always great to see you. Rodney, thanks for joining us, sir. Gary and Sandra Cooper and Teresa. Thomas, how you doing, buddy?
All good.
All good. Fantastic. Jane.
Love Clay's wine, by the way.
Oh, great. Very cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
Hi, Jane. Thanks for joining us. Brenda, hello. Susie Suarez, how's life for you?
Are we on to Amsterdam?
There you go. I got you, Julie.
Okay.
Where are you from, Julie?
San Pedro.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us tonight. Got a nice group, and I'm always happy to see where people are coming in from. And some of you guys are regulars and some new faces. So thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to move into wine number 2. We're going to taste the Turley Juvenile 2023. The Turley came on the scene in a very meaningful way in the 1990s. And I think they caught a lot of people's attention with their styling. A Zinfandel brand, oh my God, what is that? And they really focused just on the one grape variety for a very long time. They got some incredible vineyards. They picked their partners very carefully, and they built a tremendous brand with an iconic bottle, and really are probably the largest producer in Zinfandel, in quality Zinfandel in today's wine world. This bottle of Juvenile carries a California appellation, so it allows them to blend from various parts of California, and they do. And so it's a really tremendous blend of Zinfandel representing California in its entirety. And as Clay was mentioning earlier, the 23 vintage is celebrated, and it was not just a great vintage in Sonoma County or in Dry Creek, but throughout California, really a heralded vintage. So there are grapes being grown all over California, and Turley has little pockets of vineyards in all the right places, from Paso to Sonoma to Napa to Lodi to places in between. And they are often very focused on older vines, but this is their younger vines. And so it carries a very generous price, and is always a top little find. I can't wait each year to taste the new vintage of Turley, Old Vines, Turley, Juvenile, to see what they've got, because I think they're really a good indicator of vintage quality. And also their price point. Did they take price? Did they move price up? The price has been pretty damn consistent, and that's really hard to do. Now, this is a winery that's owned and operated by Larry Turley. His sister is Helen Turley. She was involved in the very beginning, but she is not involved in Turley today. And Helen has gone on to do amazing things with other wine brands. But Larry is the backbone and spine of the Turley Vineyards, and his children are taking the workload off of his shoulders as we speak in a big and meaningful way. He's also hired some great wine talent to work for him, and carries some very high ethos in their wine production. Exuberant and expressive, classic Zinfandel spice, brightly fruited, well-structured, delightfully juicy, and just downright delicious. The variety is grown in over 10% of California's vineyards. Precise geographic origin of the cultivar remains uncertain, but as Clay spoke, lots of signs point to Eastern Europe, and there's also some connection with the varietal in southern Italy, but it gets its own species when it's coming from Puglia. 90 points on this particular iteration. I'm going to get it in my glass and taste it with you guys. And I'd love to start seeing some of you guys comment in the chat box, make some questions. Tell me what you think about the actual wine in the glass. What is remarkable about this wine, again, is that how it delivers at its price point, around $27. This is their least expensive wine. This is a solid chunk of what they make. They make a good swath of this wine for the marketplace. But I even though they make a good amount of it, I am restricted as to how much I get every year. It's you get a shot at it when it comes in, and then it's gone. The nose is just, iconically Zinfandel, black pepper, plum skin, some really beautiful, juicy, almost meaty kind of characters behind behind the fruit. There's a lightness, a delicacy to this bottling too, because not every vineyard can grow fruit like Dry Creek or Napa. They're not trying to make it all taste like it's $100 efforts either. They want to present really nice, unadulterated, beautiful, juicy Zinfandel. And I think the balance and the representation here is perfect for what we just talked about. It's a solid ambassador wine. It's distributed all over the United States in a meaningful way. And it's a very good value, whether you find it in a restaurant or retail. And it's another wine where I say I wish everybody could discover Zinfandel, making something this good, what their first taste is of Zinfandel, to make up their mind, to decide if they like Zinfandel. This is going to be very generous with all different types of food. I love Zinfandel personally. I'm always looking for the best pairings. You know, certainly a juicy steak off of a grill, but you can take it into a more serious direction or a more casual direction. It's great with pizza. It's great with sausage. It's great with, spaghetti and meatballs. You can have it with a cheeseburger. But you can also take this out to a really nice dinner and have it at the fanciest restaurant and have it with amazing food. I love it with cross-cultural type stuff too. Indian cuisine, Mediterranean cuisine. When I travel to Europe and I'm going to be meeting wine families, I take Zinfandel with me, because you go to a vineyard in Italy or France, and there's a very high likelihood they've never tasted a Zinfandel, and it's going to be really something special for them when they taste it. So one of the reasons that I got into the Zinfandel business is I wanted to be something a little different. I wanted to root for the underdog, and I wanted to be able to make something that I could, maybe if not change minds, at least inspire some people to enjoy this beautiful, beautiful grape variety. And I think these first two wines are really great, especially at their price points. And we're going to continue our discovery tonight with some more greatness coming out of Storybook Mountain Vineyards. This is a Napa estate on the Mayacamas range. This is a 2021. And this particular spot, which I've been to on a couple of occasions, is a slightly cooler location. And so this wine really, and maybe it's his winemaking style as well, really kind of benefits from having another year or two. And I will tell you, it's in my winemaking too, there is a wish for, in the finance department, that when you make great wine, that you can put it right into the marketplace and it's operating at its peak as soon as you put it in the bottle. That's just not the way great wine works. And there is a propensity in the Zinfandel business to monetize, to get that wine to drink at a fast and furious pace. And I believe that is part of the reason why a lot of Zinfandels press that ripeness button a little harder, to make that wine a little juicier, a little faster. And unfortunately for the variety, the patience factor, Americans buy their wine and drink it very quickly. And Zinfandel can absolutely improve with 5, 10, 15 years in the bottle. Not everyone, but the ones that we're tasting tonight, they'll qualify. And a wine like this here, he's banking on you drinking this wine when it's 5+. So let's get into the Storybook. I always loved this brand. This is one of those brands that, as I'm growing up, I loved the name. I thought it was just a really great little, it's like opening a bottle, it's like opening a book, and you just read the story, or you taste and smell the story of the wine. I love that. Current winemaker is Colleen Williams. Jerry Seps is the owner of this property, and he is a very unique individual, as most winemakers are. He is like the great man of the mountain. I rarely see him off the mountain, and he looks like he grew up on a mountain. He is huge, big, older man now. But he's led a great brand for a very long time. Haven't talked to him or seen him recently. I hope he's still in good health. But it was probably 5 years ago I saw him last. Very much, if you go straight up to the top of Napa Valley and you make a left turn, that's where you're right at the very tip of the Mayacamas mountain range. That's where we're tasting, and that's the story that you're about to experience. I see a lot of chat activity. Let me get in there. I asked for it. You gave it to me. Let me get it in there and see what's going on. Thomas, always great contributions in the chat. You know, if it wasn't for Zin, I don't know where I would be in the wine world. I started going to Zap in the 1990s, and it was like my wine pilgrimage every year. I took a couple of friends or a friend or two. We'd go to Zap and try to taste all the wines. My hand would turn blue, my teeth would turn black, and I'd limp up the hill to eat in a great restaurant in San Francisco. And you taste all these wines, and it wasn't about getting inebriated or anything, but I just really loved the opportunity to be able to taste the great wines next to each other and to be able to compare and to contrast and to learn. I think that's some of my favorite stuff. And I remember it was the 1997 vintage that really caught fire for Zinfandel. And in fact, it was a bottle of Old Vine St. Francis Zinfandel that just took over my life. And I actually had the good fortune of working with that family, with that brand in my career. After leaving Kenwood, I went to work for Co-Brand, and Co-Brand ended up buying St. Francis Zinfandel, or St. Francis the winery. They were famous for Merlot, but here comes along this Zinfandel that they made in 1997, and it blew people's minds. And it was a very unique vintage for Zinfandel, and it really caught a lot of people's imagination. Thank you, Rodney, for your comments, your contributions there. Teresa, I'm glad you were touched by Clay's presentation. Clay, you got a note in there from Wendy Carlson. Take a look.
Yeah, I responded to her privately.
Ah, very good. Cool. Yeah, white Zinfandel sales are still a thing. But unfortunately, that demographic that's drinking white Zinfandel is not necessarily the fine wine market in today's world, but it is in almost every grocery store and the bottom shelf, and some maybe even has some raspberry inspiration or something like that in today's grocery department. Yeah, it's still a big business. And I don't think of white Zinfandel and poo-poo it at all. I think a lot of us came to wine, like myself, probably started to enjoy wine because of wine coolers, or for some people it was white Zinfandel. For some people today it's sweet wines that are in the marketplace that are bringing people to wine, or $2 Chuck, whatever it is, whatever road you traveled to get here. You don't start necessarily at the top of the food chain very often, and so it's great to be able to come together, coalesce around some nice wines, and learn some things from each other. Clay, thanks for responding to these folks. They're enjoying you very much. Rodney's in the chat, but by the end of the chat or the end of this tasting, we're going to hear Rodney's voice. I'm certain of it. It's a great voice. All right, Storybook. Let's get into it now. I won't be redundant with discussing the qualities of each Zin, but that is a very pretty cluster. Not all of them end up looking like that. In fact, when we pick Zinfandel, we want to start seeing the skins wrinkle maybe just a tad, and that's just when you're going for that peak ripeness, you want uniformity. You're going to have some at the top and some at the bottom, maybe even raisin a little bit. So that's just part of the varietal. This one got 92 points, so let's taste it together and give kind of reflect on what we're tasting here. If you've ever been to Storybook, he's built a beautiful little Zinfandel ranch with some caves carved right into the Mayacamas mountain range, and that's what we're looking at here. It's really a beautiful spot, classic, old school mentality, old school winery. And he achieves his character in a really beautiful and balanced way. So many other people take their alcohol up in such a much more dramatic, much more ripe rendition. I'm looking for the alcohol percentage here. I put a sticker on the bottle to let me know this was wine number 3. I might be covering it, but I believe this wine be very close to 14 alcohol and might in some years even be lower. And that's because of his kind of old stylings, his beliefs and his ideas. Now, if you make a Zinfandel that's closer to 13%, you're asking for trouble, because the wine probably will take, a decade or two to come around. But recently purchased a bottle of 1968 Zinfandel from Louis Martini, and I've had bottles that old before, and those bottles from the 60s were 12% alcohol, and so when you buy them today, they're still pretty purple and still young, still fresh. And that's that old world style of winemaking. But again, if you were making those wines today, they would cost a lot more to make, and they would take forever to come around. And that's a difficult economic equation. I hope you agree that the styling here, if you were in a blind tasting, and you were tasting the Storybook, you might have a hard time knowing what exact grape variety we're tasting. It's almost, we would call it a claret style, because it's made to taste like a great red wine of California more than it is a really powerful high alcohol Zin. This is just more of a claret style, very pretty, very balanced, and I think it's very charming. We're at $31.95, and I dare say I think this wine has been $31.95 for the past 25 years. And it's really, a kind of an underachiever as far as price point growth or anything, and the banks are probably not real happy. But we as consumers should be pretty ecstatic to be able to buy a pretty storied Zinfandel from an estate in the Napa Valley at $32. The only reason we're able to do this is this family owns the property, and they're just not really taking today's market price of the work and the labor and the land, the bank value, all that stuff, and that price is pretty restrained. Hey, this week we're talking Zinfandel. Next week we're going to go to Italy, and I've got a great lineup of wines. I'm just going to pop in and show you what we're doing. That's zoom into wine. And my idea for next week with our Zinfandel, or our Italian look at things, is to show you some stuff that maybe you haven't tasted before. These are really great producers. Some Ribolla Gialla, which is one of my favorite grape varieties now, that I think you're going to love. A remarkable wine from Campania, Fiano di Avellino. Foradori is our Pinot Grigio producer. This is 97 point Pinot Grigio from the Dolomites. It's absolutely spectacular. A wine from Lasana, which is Nebbiolo. It's Alta Piedmonte, and this is brought in. It's a teeny little producer brought in by an absolutely fantastic importer, and it's under the price of a regular Barolo and remarkable. A Noble de Montepulciano from Montepulciano. This is just a spectacular version. I don't care how much it costs, but this is a profound wine, and I'm going to have a hard time selling it unless you taste it. But it is spectacular. I can taste it right now. I still remember it. Just bought it about a month and a half ago. It is remarkable stuff, 2022 vintage. And then we'll finish with Giuseppe Quintorelli and one of his less expensive wines, Primo Fiori, and it is a 2023, and he is a great producer to learn about. So join me on this exposition across some great land of Italy with some really benchmark producers, some teeny producers that I think you're really going to enjoy. Back to Zinfandel, and we head into Martinelli. We're tasting Giuseppe and Luisa. This is a very extraordinary wine, an extraordinary vineyard, an old vine site. In fact, almost everybody that you talk to in Zinfandel land, and Clay may or may not still be with us, but I think he is turned in for the night. He's an hour ahead of us. Everybody in Zinfandel land talks about where they get their fruit from, and it's almost all Martinelli clone. Martinellis are tremendous grape growers, and they own some of the oldest vines in the state of California. They are great shepherds for the grape variety. So when you go to make a vineyard, you propagate your vineyard from the best vines, and you go into a vineyard from the Martinellis and you say, that is the most beautiful, significant looking vine. I want all my vines to look like that. That's called mezzo selection. You're going to pick from the best, and you then take a cutting from that particular vine and you propagate your vineyard from that cutting. And that's why almost everybody in Sonoma has got Martinelli clones at Zinfandel. And so that's what we're about to experience here. This is the one thing I love about Martinelli is they are not shy about their styling. This is a very ripe style, and I'm gonna see if I can find that alcohol. Yeah, this one does not change that story. This is 16.3 alcohol. They do things the way they've done it for a long time. They like seeing this thing get really spicy, and they want that fruit to be really ripe. And they've been doing it for over 150 years now. And some of the vines in this particular wine are planted prior to Prohibition. That used to be the definition of old vines in California, was if the vines were planted prior to Prohibition, because that means the vines were probably field blends, untrained, untrellised. Let's get the wine in the glass. A little bit more warmth coming off the top of this glass for sure. But some really interesting character as well. "94 points, Jeb Dunnick. His description, a saturated ruby red color, the 2023. That's what we're tasting. Giuseppe and Luisa is savory with an intriguing notes of cedar, red berries, and baked earth. The acidity is incredible on this wine, which has a salty feel and bright, shiny fruit. This is a great value. There is Courtney Robinette Wagoner in the middle there. She is the winemaker. But the family has got generations of people involved in the family farm, and they have holdings in many great sites. Some of the most important Zinfandel vineyards as well. Particular wine called Jackass, Martinelli Jackass. That's a $300 bottle of Zinfandel now. And they can charge anything they want because everybody wants it. And it's a crazy wine. Can smell the spiciness and the ripeness, and the alcohol is definitely part of the experience here, but it's not, this carries this ripeness in a big way. And it's juicy, and that structure, it makes it so unique. This wine is not trying to come out of the bottle at this point of its life being perfect. They're making a wine that maybe, years later, you open this up and you see it really hit the target that they were eyeballing. Because this wine's still very young and really has kind of not integrated into itself yet. And some bigger wines can be a little slower to do that. And but there is some wonderful material here. You can smell the juiciness of the vintage, their styling, that high-end fruit set, but you feel the wine in different ways in different parts and areas right now. And I think it's still, a couple years more before you start to really see this thing come to perform. But we'll be selling the 2025 by then. So if you like the 23 like I do, I would grab some now. And I think it's $60. This is one hell of a deal.
They have a very interesting label.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like, I don't mean to sound rude, but it almost looks like you see it on the bottom shelf in a store, right? It's so colorful and
funny that
fun.
you say that, because this label hasn't changed in like 50 years. Seriously.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's not like any of their other labels either. They're as a brand, they have very different labels for each wine. And it's part of their story. I mean, it's just part of that when you've been around as long as they have, there's things they decide to change and upgrade and modernize. And there's things like this that they just leave it alone.
Leave it. Well, it's wonderful wine. So
Glad you like it.
yeah.
And I like tasting, something. This is like one of those wines where it's great to have this in your library of tasting. Like, have you had the Martinelli? Have you done, the Giuseppe and Luisa? And I can relate. to be able to have that as part of your discussion about the grape variety, got to kind of have that. And that's certainly part of the thought process of putting it in the tasting tonight. I, literally, when I got this wine, I it was like the day that I got this wine, it inspired this tasting. I said, okay, now we've got the Giuseppe and Luisa in stock. Let's do a Zinfandel tasting. So it was with that I wrapped the rest of these wines around this one because it just came in. And I could probably still buy some more 23, maybe, but it won't be around for very long. With that in mind, we go to another great 23 producer. This is from, an iconic appellation on its own, Howell Mountain. And this has some great stories for Clay and I too, because when I was making Beekeeper, we sourced, I was struggling because in 2009, I could only afford to make so much wine. In 10, the vintage took half the wine away from me. And 11, the vintage took 90% of the wine away from me. So when 12 came around, I was kind of scrambling, like, hey, I'm supposed to have made, a couple thousand cases of wine by now. I've got nothing. And so I went out and I tried to find some great vineyards to work with. And this Outpost is made at the Black Sears Ranch at the top of Howell Mountain at 2,400 feet. And it's made by Thomas Rivers Brown. And I brought this fruit, this gigantic globular fruit grown in Sonoma, and I paid a lot of money for it. And I brought it to Sonoma icon Clay Mauritson, and he looked at it and he goes, "How much did you pay for this stuff?" And I knew immediately that I had probably made a difficult decision. Maybe the wrong decision, maybe the right decision, I'm not sure. But, in respect to Clay and his family, they sell me their best fruit for not as much as I paid for this Howell Mountain stuff that was really disjointed and ugly and big and globular and heavy. It ended up making some great wine because Clay worked his ass off on that with me. So it was beautiful. So now let's go to the Outpost story. Howell Mountain, 2,400 feet. Really a remarkable part of the Napa Valley, one of the 16 sub appellations. But you could see on this map of Howell Mountain where things are. You got Turley's up there. In fact, Turley liked Black Sears so much, they bought all the land around, all the land around Black Sears. You actually have to drive through the Turley's property to get to the Outpost and Black Sears site. Now, Black Sears is the name of the vineyard. It's run by the Sears family, and Outpost is the name of a brand that is not owned by Black Sears, but they have their winemaking facility there, and they make their Outpost wine with some of that fruit. And it's made by Thomas Rivers Brown. Thank you, Stephanie, for your comment. I saw that. Here's a look at the site. And that is Brown, Brown. Outpost was established in 1998. 19 acres at Outpost. There's Thomas. Let's get that wine in the glass and see how she is doing. Yeah, so I got the 23 Giuseppe, I got the 23 Outpost. I'm like, hey, I'm looking pretty good here. Our Zinfandel selection's getting pretty rich. super dark. Look at that thickness. You know, when Zinfandel does grow on the hillside, those skins get a little thicker, the berry size gets a little smaller, the clusters get a little tighter. You know, they suffer from some of the severities of growing on an angle. It's not as generous as a valley floor, and you can really do some amazing stuff with Zinfandel. So everything that I always wanted to do was on hillsides, and certainly wines like this were part of the inspiration. Wow, that nose is crazy. Stephanie, are you gonna break open a Black Sears Beekeeper? That's daring.
We have several magnums left.
Oh my goodness. Well, the nose on this wine is magnificent, and I wouldn't expect anything less. Thomas Rivers Brown's a champion winemaker. If you don't know who he is, he probably made the biggest dent in his name and his reputation came for his long and storied career as the winemaker at Schrader. But he helps probably, I would guess, 40 to 50 wine brands. Some of them he owns, some of them he's the winemaker, some of them he's consultant. So he has quite a great career, and he's responsible for a lot of amazing wines because he only takes top quality projects, and he has his choice. Wow, that is decadent. Decadent. That's a perfect word for this Outpost. Whether you like this style or not, it is decadent. I like it a lot. We're at 71.95, and this is a champion. 95 points. Beautiful stuff. Now, I picked the order tonight based on the scores of the wines. Because as I always tell people, you know, one of the great pleasures of doing these Zooms with you is that I taste these wines. You know, Limerick Lane came to my tasting room here, my little office, and tasted me on their wine. I bought it. I bought Outpost with the rep from Outpost. I buy Clay's wine because he's Clay. But I don't get to taste these wines next to each other without doing this. And so if somebody comes to me and says, what's my favorite? I think it's fair to say it's hard to pick a favorite unless you taste them next to each other. And you can have a nice set of information. I wish I could do even more. More wines in the lineup. You get sick of my voice after about 30 minutes, but I would enjoy it. All right. Limerick Lane. Another storied producer. This one's from the Sonoma side of the fence. This is their top end called Marquis. And about 6 months ago, this was the current vintage. I'm pretty sure they're through the 21 by now. But they own vineyards in the Russian River area. And they have a beautiful operation. It's under fairly new ownership. They've kind of been able to retool and upgrade things and bring in some needed financial support for the brand. They have some very old vine sites, and that's what we're tasting here. Look at the swimming pool. Looks like a wine bottle. I didn't know that until right now. Marquis Zinfandel is a wine representing the oldest and finest of the Russian River Valley's vineyards. This region has been home to grapes and grape growing families for over a century, with Italian immigrants originally planting much of the valley to Zinfandel. Aromas and flavors: blackberries, dark cherry, violets, underbrush, vanilla, sweet spice. Mouthfeel: polished, velvety, tannins, broad and lingering finish. Another beautiful specimen of Zinfandel, the cluster. 95 points. I think we got 96 on the website. Let me check that out. Beautiful. Look at that. That is the Russian River right there. It's farms attached by vineyards, attached by mountains. Yeah, it says 96. I hope we have a 96 score on that website. 96 Vinous. Dense, plush, and explosive. And this is exactly what I remember. This is from the very beautiful 2021 vintage. I like Zinfandel that has a little bit of time on it. I was paying for that time a little bit. This is a $70 bottle, but you can see what 5 years has been able to bring those massive, unique characteristics together. And now you've got something with charm and balance. The packaging is fantastic. They've really done a great job with this brand. Limerick Lane, a really good Zinfandel producer, and that's what they do. You guys are being quiet. The chat box has gone a little quiet. Maybe Stephanie's Magnum is taking her attention away.
Lovely. All of these are great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, they're all really good and very different. Each one so good, but so different. Which one was it that you said you might not know it's a Zin? That's exactly how I felt. That was
Storybook, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah. That one it's so delicious though, and $31.95. It's crazy. So I mean, there's not many wines at $32 a bottle in the state of California that have the story and the qualities and a drink like that. I would have that with any dinner. It's a really, really beautiful wine for sure. And I think the wines, definitely give you, what you pay for. There you can see, sometimes you do have to pay a little bit more, but compared to Cabernet, you're getting a 95 point Zinfandel for a third of the price. And so Zinfandel does have a lot of value, and it can go really well with food. I love finding unique things to pair it with and to have fun with the top chefs. When I was out there selling my Beekeeper, it was some of the, it wasn't the financial success that made it worth it. It was the moments like being able to have my wine at Napa restaurant with A5 Wagyu being poured by the glass. That is something that you just don't get to pay. That you can make millions of dollars and not feel the satisfaction that I got to feel. Being able to see that happen. My wine was poured at Benu, at Providence, at Melise, at Spago. And I'm still very attached to the Zinfandel industry. I will always carry an elite selection And at some point, if I hit the lotto or find an investor that really wants to make Zinfandel, we could go back in and Clay will help us. He is ready to go.
Your beekeeper wines used to get 3 puffs from Connoisseur's Guide, which was their highest rating. So they were very good, very highly rated wines.
I made so many winemakers jealous by getting that. There were only a couple of 3-puff wines, and we get it almost every single year. And I could just feel them like wanting to take me in the back room and beat me up. But it was great. It was fun, and it's when we didn't make a lot of wine. So if you're going to make it and you're only going to make a little bit, you might as well make it great. And Clay gave me his heart and soul. And his team, Emma, and the whole group were amazing to work with. So they're still in place there. If anybody gets a windfall, just need a few million to make it right. That's what it takes. That's what it takes to make a brand get started today in the right way. Yeah.
Right. Difficult time to start.
That's when you're supposed to do it.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay. Well, Clay's wines are amazing. You had him on when we did the Sauvignon Blanc, and I love that wine. And the price point is so good. You just can't beat it. So he's good.
That's part of his formula. He makes his wines are always worth way more than you pay for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Amy, thanks for joining us tonight. What did you enjoy tonight?
I liked the first and the last. I thought they were great. I thought they were all great, actually.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, thank you for being here. Always great to have you in the room. Jane, did you have a favorite?
There we go. I did. I also enjoyed the first and the fifth Outpost.
All right. Cool.
It was wonderful.
Thank you very much. Well, gang, I hope you had a great time. I hope to see you again. I hope you will look at the Zoom into Wine calendar. And if you live in Los Angeles, take a look at the Learn About Wine calendar because we have some fun stuff. I packed July and August a little heavy. So jump on board. I put almost all the events on some crazy pricing to be able to pull some of them off. But we're really having a good time right now. The pace is good. My team here at Merchant of Wine, Jo, she is the best. If you've bought wine from us, you know that she's really good at what she does. We're very happy to hold your wine if you need us to. It's going to be a little warm here in the next couple of weeks. It's been like the fact that we made it to July without a 100-degree day is remarkable. But I do see the heat coming, and July is going to be hot. But buy your wine, we'll hold it for you, and we'll ship it to you when you're ready. But it's a great time to do that and to place your bets and join us for some Zooms, and we'll get those Zooms out to you. We've got some really good content, and we're working on the fourth quarter calendar right now. We've got Zooms on the website through September, and we'll have the rest of the year filled out here shortly. Thank you all very much, and thank you, Clay, out there. We'll see you again soon. Good night, everybody.
Great tasting.
Thank you, Ian.
Thanks, Ian.
Dodgers. Go Dodgers.
Go Dodgers!
Yeah.
Got my hat. We're only 14 games up. We need to beat 20.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. Bye, Ian.
Bye,
Great
guys.
to see you.
Bye.
Bye.